Hello everyone. Before we start this lesson, I just have to quickly tell you about a film I saw last night. It was so good. I mean, the plot was good. The cinematography, well, that was good. The special effects, they were good. The acting was not so good, but in general, I'd really recommend that you watch that film because it was just really good. I think we can do better than that, can't we? We definitely can, and that's why in this video I'm going to teach you 10 advanced adjectives to describe films. Actually, I'm feeling pretty generous today, so I'm going to teach you over 20 advanced adjectives to describe films. Now, these adjectives, of course, can be used in other situations too, not just to describe films, but we do tend to like talking about films, and it's nice to be able to describe them in detail. And also, if you're planning on taking an English exam, especially the Cambridge English exams, you may need to write a review. And often the reviews in the exams are on films, so this vocabulary will be extremely useful. Now, as I said, I'm feeling pretty generous today for some reason, so I'm also giving away some advanced vocabulary flashcards. Now, these are flashcards that I've designed myself, so these are bespoke flashcards, so that means they're specially designed for you. They consist of vocabulary from my videos from the last 2 or 3 years. So I've selected some of the most useful words, so including adjectives, adverbs, phrasal verbs, nouns, collocations, all kinds of words which I think you will find particularly useful. Now, these flashcards I'm giving to you completely free, so all you have to do is go to the link in the description and you will be added to my email list, which means you'll receive more emails from me with tips on how to learn vocabulary and general English learning tips. But more importantly, occasionally I will be adding to these flashcards, so I'll be sending you more flashcards, and you don't need to do anything. You just have to make sure that you receive my emails, and you'll get more flashcards which are really useful to be able to practice the vocabulary that I've taught in my videos over the years. So, for example, the vocabulary from this video will be in future flashcards, which I'll send in future emails. Okay, but let's get started with the first adjective, advanced adjective for describing films. And this is a very common one that we use specifically to describe films, and it is far-fetched. Far-fetched. And far-fetched basically means hard to believe. Difficult to really believe that this thing that's in the film actually happened. We all know films, or at least scenes in films, where it's all a bit exaggerated and you can't really imagine it happening in real life. It's a bit far-fetched. So the example sentence is, it was a good film, but the scene where the main character destroys an entire army was a bit far-fetched. Okay, so yeah, it was a good film, it was fine, but that particular scene was difficult to believe. It was a bit exaggerated. Now, what I want to do in this video is give you a synonym for each adjective, because if you need to write a review of a film, yeah, using one advanced adjective is great, but usually you want to use more to really get descriptive. So a good synonym for far-fetched is implausible. Implausible. So in the same example sentence, you can just substitute far-fetched for implausible. But of course, if you're writing a review, you may want to express the same idea, but without using the same vocabulary in a different sentence. So you may want to say it's a far-fetched film in one sentence, and then really emphasize that it's implausible, that's one of the flaws of this film. Okay, the next adjective is thought-provoking. So again, another hyphenated adjective here, thought-provoking. This is perhaps quite easy to infer the meaning of, I would have thought. Something that is thought-provoking provokes thought, so it's something that makes you think. So in this case, a film that really makes you think. Again, I'm sure you can all think of films which are thought-provoking, that when you finish the film, you spend hours or sometimes days afterwards thinking about the film and thinking about the ideas and the situations which occurred in the film. So my example is, it's a thought-provoking film which deals with deep existential questions on human nature. Okay, so that's quite a deep sentence, obviously referring to a deep film, but thought-provoking, so it makes you think about it. An alternative adjective is intriguing. So an intriguing film or an intriguing situation, it tends to make you think. So you could substitute thought-provoking with intriguing in that sentence. It's an intriguing film. And the next adjective is clichéd. Clichéd. So that basically means lacking originality or a bit overused. So again, you know, films where maybe the plot or the storyline is a bit cliched. You've seen it before many times. It's nothing new, basically. It lacks originality. So the example sentence: I found the development of the relationships quite cliched and totally predictable. So in this case, the relationships between the people in the films, you know, very cliched. You've seen it before. They're overused. Nothing new, nothing original. Another adjective which has a very similar, or basically the same meaning, is hackneyed. Hackneyed. So it's something that is hackneyed lacks originality. It's overused. Again, it's cliched and predictable. The next adjective, a very good one. It's quite difficult to pronounce, but it's uproarious. Uproarious. But this means it's very funny, basically. So it's a good way of describing a comedy. So an example sentence: this uproarious comedy is perfect for all the family. So yeah, a nice comedy that everybody can laugh at. Of course, a synonym, which you may already know, is hilarious. Maybe you're familiar with hilarious. Again, it can be used in different contexts, not only in films. But yeah, uproarious and hilarious are good to describe comedies. And the next one, which has a slightly more negative connotation, it's convoluted. Convoluted. Convoluted means complex and complicated, but you know, it really means overly complex and overly complicated. And you can probably all think of films which are convoluted. When I think of convoluted films, I think of Origin or Tenet. I don't know if you know those films, but you know, they get really deep and complicated, and they can be quite difficult to follow. But my example sentence is: the convoluted plot is extremely difficult to follow. An alternative to convoluted is perplexing. Perplexing. Again, that's kind of confusing because it's so complex. Okay, the next two adjectives I'm going to teach together because they're basically opposites. They're fast-paced and slow-paced. So fast-paced just means that the action develops quickly. There's a fast-moving action. So you go from one scene to the next and everything's happening very quickly, which is very common in modern films. So the example sentence is: it's a fast-paced thriller with non-stop action. Okay? When I think of that, I think of Fast and Furious. That's the typical film. It's just, you know, bombards you with action continuously. A good synonym for fast-paced is breakneck. Breakneck. So when something happens at breakneck speed, it happens very quickly. And of course, the opposite, as I said, is slow-paced. Now, some people think that slow-paced is perhaps a negative adjective, but I think it depends. Some people like slow-paced films, so it really depends on your perspective. But the example sentence is: although the film is slow-paced at times, it manages to hold the viewer's attention. Okay, so in this case, yeah, the reviewer is recognizing that the film is slow-paced at times, but it's not such a bad thing because it manages to hold the viewer's attention. A good synonym for slow-paced, which is even more advanced, is dawdling. Dawdling. Now, dawdling, again, it can be used in other contexts, not just in film reviews. And it actually does have a more negative connotation than slow-paced. If you say something or someone is dawdling, you know, you're kind of suggesting they should move more quickly. Don't go so slowly. Come on, move more quickly. Stop dawdling. So if you want to be a little bit critical of a film for being too slow, you can say it's dawdling. Okay, the next adjective is heartwarming. Heartwarming. That's a really nice adjective, isn't it? Again, it's hyphenated. So again, you can probably infer the meaning from the component parts of this adjective. If something is heartwarming, it warms your heart. So it's nice, right? It's positive. So it causes feelings of sympathy. It makes you feel sympathetic to the characters or the plot. So the example sentence is: it's the heartwarming relationship between the child and her grandfather which really makes the film special. So here we're talking about a specific relationship which is heartwarming. It warms your heart. It's nice. It gives you, you feel sympathy and maybe even empathy towards this relationship. An alternative, a synonym basically, is touching. A touching relationship, for example, or a touching film in general, or a touching plot or storyline. It basically has the same meaning. Touching can also refer to sort of sadness. Something touches you. It can touch you because you feel sympathy for the characters or the plot, or it could be because it's the sadness that touches you. So it's a bit more general, touching. And then the next adjective, which is really quite different to heartwarming and touching, is macabre. Macabre. And this is referring to something unpleasant and disturbing because it's related to death. So it's really quite dark, but sometimes we need to speak about and review dark films which maybe refer to death. So the example sentence is, despite the overall macabre ambience, there are moments of comic levity. Okay? So despite the overall macabre ambience, in general, this film has quite a disturbing, unpleasant, dark ambience because it's maybe related to death. But despite this, there are also moments of comic levity. And a good synonym in this context for macabre is gruesome. Gruesome, so you can describe a film as being gruesome. Again, it's kind of disturbing and related to death. So yeah, again, if you're describing this type of film, macabre is great, but having two adjectives, two advanced adjectives to use to describe the film really help, I think. And in your writings, in a Cambridge English exam, if you choose the review, you want to use as much appropriate and advanced vocabulary as possible. Okay, the next adjective is generally a positive one. It's stunning. Stunning. And again, this adjective can be used in many contexts, but it's particularly useful for films. And it means very impressive, basically. So when you find something amazing, extremely impressive, you can say it's stunning. In this case, I'm talking about special effects. So the stunning special effects compensate for the mediocre storyline. Okay? So in this case, the film's storyline is nothing special. It's mediocre. So that's quite critical. You're saying it's a bit boring, nothing special. But the stunning special effects compensate for this, so that the special effects are extremely impressive, amazing. And a good alternative for stunning is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. You may have heard this adjective, something that blows your mind. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's extremely impressive. It's stunning. It's mind-blowing. And finally, we're finishing with a very nice positive one. It's uplifting. Uplifting. And this is referring to something that makes you feel happy or happier and more positive. So if you think, if it lifts you up, if it is uplifting, it's positive, right? It makes you feel better in general. So Forrest Gump is an uplifting film which celebrates the triumph of the human spirit. Okay, so that's a nice sentence to use in a review. So Forrest Gump is quite a typically uplifting film. It's positive. And a good alternative for uplifting, especially with films, is feel good. A feel good film is an uplifting film. Obviously from the components of that adjective, feel good, it makes you feel good. So we often describe films as feel good films. Okay, so now you have some fantastic adjectives to describe your favorite film. Don't forget to download those flashcards and make sure you follow my emails in the future, because I will be sharing more flashcards in the future, so don't miss them. Okay, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you very soon for another video.